The silent thunder dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the void sector. Captain Ben Phillips stood on the bridge, looking at the main display screen with growing concern. The scene before them was worse than any of the reports had described. The artifact had grown to the size of a small moon. Its black surface pulsed with dark energy that seemed to bend light around it. Where once there had been asteroid fields and small planets, now there was only empty space filled with floating debris. The gravitational effects were so strong that space itself looked twisted and warped. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Danny Foster from the navigation station. "It's beautiful and terrifying at the same time." Commander Rachel Stone studied her weapons console readings. "Captain, the energy output from that thing is off our scales. It's putting out more power than most stars." Ben activated the communication system. "This is Captain Phillips of the Silent Thunder to all ships in the area. Please respond." Verbal. Reply came from Admiral Vexthor aboard the Drakmor flagship Conquest's Edge. "Captain Phillips, we are maintaining position at the outer edge of the safe zone. Our fleet has taken significant damage. We have lost 16 ships in the past 4 days. Ben looked at the tactical display showing the positions of the surviving alien vessels. They were scattered around the edge of the danger zone like frightened animals hiding from a predator. "Admiral Vexthor, what have you learned about the artifact's behavior patterns?" "It pulses every 47 minutes, came the reply from Prime Scholar Lendak aboard the Crystal Mind. "Each pulse increases its size and extends its range of influence. We estimate it will reach inhabited systems within 18 hours. Rachel checked her instruments again. "Captain, the quantum disruption array is showing some unusual readings. The artifact is affecting space-time in ways we didn't expect. Our targeting systems may not work properly this close to it." Ben studied the tactical situation. The alien fleet was staying at least 50 kilometers away from the artifact, but even at that distance, their ships showed signs of structural stress from the gravitational effects. The Silent Thunder would need to get much closer to use its weapons effectively. "All stations, prepare for combat approach," Ben announced. "Foster, plot a direct course to the artifact. Stone, begin charging the quantum disruption array." "Sir," Danny said from his station, "the gravitational fields around that thing are constantly shifting. I can get us close, but I can't guarantee we'll be able to maintain a stable orbit. Do your best, Lieutenant. We only need to stay in position long enough to fire." As the Silent Thunder moved closer to the artifact, the alien crews watched from their ships with a mixture of hope and fear. Kexthor stood on the bridge of his brother's flagship, remembering Captain Morrison's words about doors that could not be easily closed. "Brother," Admiral Vexthor said quietly, "do you think the human weapons will work?" Kexthor watched the sleek human ship approaching the massive black sphere. "I think we are about to learn whether humans are as wise as they claim to be, or as foolish as we once believed." Aboard the Silent Thunder, the crew began to feel the effects of approaching the artifact. The ship's hull groaned under the stress of constantly changing gravitational forces. Several crew members reported headaches and nausea as the quantum fields around them fluctuated. "Captain," Rachel called out from her station, "I'm getting some very strange readings from the quantum disruption array. The artifact seems to be scanning us somehow." Ben looked at the energy patterns on his display. The artifact's pulses were coming faster now, almost as if it was excited by the approaching human ship. "Can it detect our weapons?" "I don't think so, sir. But it's definitely reacting to our presence differently than it did to the other ships." Danny struggled with his controls as the navigation systems tried to compensate for the shifting gravitational fields. "Captain, I'm having trouble maintaining course. It's like space itself is moving around us." The silent thunder shuddered as it passed through a particularly strong gravitational wave. Emergency lights flickered throughout the ship, and several crew members had to grab onto their stations to keep from falling. "Distance to target?" Ben asked. 20 kilometers in closing," Danny replied. "But, sir, the gravitational effects are getting stronger. I don't think we can get much closer without risking structural damage." Rachel looked up from her weapons console with a grim expression. "Captain, we have a problem. The quantum disruption array is designed to work in normal space. The gravitational distortions around the artifact are interfering with the targeting system." Ben felt his stomach drop. They had come so far, and now their weapons might not work properly. "Can you compensate for the interference?" "I can try. Manual targeting. But it will be like shooting at a moving target while standing on a boat in a storm. The accuracy will be much lower than normal." The artifact pulsed again, this time much brighter than before. The energy wave that followed made the silent thunder spin like a leaf in a hurricane. Several crew members were thrown to the floor, and warning alarms began sounding throughout the ship. "Damage report," Ben called out. "Hull stress at 60% of maximum," came the reply from the engineering station. "But all systems are still operational." Ben made his decision. "Stone, prepare to fire. We may only get one chance at this." Rachel began the complex process of manually targeting the quantum disruption weapons. Without computer assistance, she had to calculate the trajectory by eye, taking into account the shifting gravitational fields and the artifact's movement. "Sir," Danny said urgently, "the artifact is doing something new. Look at the display." Ben looked at the main screen and saw that the black sphere was beginning to change shape. Instead of a perfect circle, it was developing angular projections that looked almost like weapons. "It's adapting," Rachel said with amazement. "The thing is actually rebuilding itself to face us." The artifact fired its first directed energy beam at the silent thunder. The beam missed, but only barely. Where it passed through space, reality itself seemed to crack and split. "Evasive maneuvers," Ben ordered. "Stone, fire when ready." Danny pushed the ship's engines to their limits, trying to avoid the artifact's increasingly accurate attacks. The silent thunder twisted and turned through space like a fighter plane, but the massive artifact seemed to predict their movements. Rachel finished her targeting calculations and placed her hand on the firing control. "Quantum disruption array charged and ready, Captain." "But sir, at this range and with manual targeting, I can only guarantee about a 60% chance of hitting the center mass." Another energy beam from the artifact passed so close to the silent thunder that the hull plating began to glow from the heat. Ben realized they were out of time. "Fire all weapons," he ordered. Rachel pressed the firing control, and the silent thunder's quantum disruption array activated. A beam of invisible energy lanced out toward the artifact, but instead of the clean hit they had hoped for, the beam struck one of the artifact's projecting arms. The results were immediate and terrifying. The struck section of the artifact simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, but completely removed from reality. However, instead of stopping the artifact, the attack seemed to enrage it. The black sphere began to pulse faster, and more weapon projections grew from its surface. The remaining alien ships watched in horror as the artifact's energy output doubled, then tripled. "Captain," Rachel said with a shaking voice, "I think we just made it angry." The artifact turned all of its attention toward the silent thunder, preparing to eliminate the one ship that had managed to hurt it. Ben realized that their first shot had only been the beginning of the battle, not the end. The artifact unleashed a barrage of energy beams at the silent thunder. Captain Ben Phillips gripped his command chair as the ship shook violently under the assault. Each near miss caused reality to crack and bend around them, creating visual distortions that made several crew members sick. "Hull integrity down to 40%, reported the engineering officer. "Sir, we can't take many more hits like that." Commander Rachel Stone worked frantically at her weapons console, trying to recalibrate the quantum disruption array. "Captain, the artifact's energy field is interfering with our targeting even more now. It's like trying to shoot through a funhouse mirror." Lieutenant Danny Foster struggled to keep the ship moving as space itself seemed to twist around them. "Sir, the gravitational effects are getting worse. I'm not sure how much longer we can maintain maneuverability." Ben looked at the tactical display. The artifact had grown even larger since their first attack, and new weapon projections were sprouting from its surface like angry thorns. Their quantum disruption beam had damaged it, but not enough to stop it. "Stone, how long until the weapons are ready to fire again?" 2 minutes, Captain. But, sir, at our current distance, and with the interference, accuracy will be even worse than before." Ben made a decision that he knew might doom them all. "Foster, take us closer. Get us within 5 kilometers of that thing." "Sir," Danny said with wide eyes, "at that range, the gravitational effects could tear us apart. At this range, we can't hit anything vital. Do it." The silent thunder accelerated toward the massive artifact, diving deeper into the chaotic space around it. The ship's hull groaned and creaked as gravitational forces pulled it in different directions. Warning lights flashed throughout the bridge as systems strained beyond their design limits. From their position at the edge of the safe zone, the alien fleet watched the human ship's desperate charge with a mixture of admiration and horror. Aboard the Drakmor flagship, Kexthor stood beside his brother, both of them staring at the main display. "They're going to get themselves killed," Admiral Vexthor said quietly. "Yes," Kexthor replied, "but they're going to take that thing with them, if they can." On the Crystal Mind, Zin-Ara analyzed the human ship's approach with her advanced computational abilities. "Prime Scholar Lendak, their tactical approach makes no logical sense. They're sacrificing defensive capability for marginal improvements. In targeting accuracy, perhaps," the Elder Veltar replied. "Logic is not always the most important factor in combat. Observe how the humans fight. They do not calculate the odds of survival. They calculate the odds of success." As the silent thunder drew closer to the artifact, the crew began to experience the direct effects of quantum field exposure. Several officers reported seeing strange lights that weren't there. Others complained of feeling like they were in 2 places at once. "Captain," Rachel called out, her voice strained, "the quantum disruption array is showing critical readings. The artifact's energy field is causing resonance effects in our weapon systems. Can you fire?" "Yes, sir, but there's a risk. The quantum fields around us are so unstable that firing our weapons might cause a feedback loop. The disruption effect could cascade back into our own ship." Ben looked around the bridge at his crew. Every person there was a volunteer who had known this mission might be a one-way trip. They had all accepted that risk because they understood what was at stake. "How close do we need to be for a guaranteed hit on the artifact's core?" Rachel checked her calculations one more time. 2 kilometers, sir. At that range, even with all the interference, I can put the quantum disruption beam right through the center of that thing. And what are our chances of surviving the feedback? At that range? Rachel met his eyes steadily. Honestly, Captain? Almost 0. The artifact seemed to sense their intention. It began firing everything it had at the approaching human ship. Energy beams lanced through space, each one capable of destroying a normal vessel. The silent thunder dodged and weaved, but at such close range, there was nowhere to hide. One beam clipped the ship's port engine, and half the lights on the bridge went out. Another passed so close to the hull that the metal began to glow white-hot. A third beam struck their secondary shield generator, and the protective barriers around the ship flickered and died. "Sir," Danny said through gritted teeth, "I don't think we're going to make it to 2 kilometers." Ben looked at the distance reading, 3.2 kilometers and closing. They were so close to the artifact now that it filled the entire main display screen. The black surface pulsed with malevolent energy, and Ben could see weapon ports opening all across its surface. "Stone, prepare to fire everything we have. Full power to the quantum disruption array." "Sir, at full power and this close to the artifact, the cascade effect will definitely destroy us." "I know. Do it anyway." Rachel began the firing sequence, her hands moving quickly over the controls. The quantum disruption array charged with more power than it had ever carried before. Throughout the ship, crew members felt their hair stand on end as reality itself began to bend around them. "Captain," the engineering officer called out, "we're detecting quantum resonance in the ship's structure. The hull is beginning to phase in and out of normal space." Ben could see it happening on the bridge. Parts of the walls seemed to flicker and become transparent. One crew member's hand passed right through his control panel before snapping back to normal. "Distance to target?" Ben asked. 2.1 kilometers, Danny replied. "Sir, that's as close as I can get us. The gravitational effects are tearing the ship apart." "Stone, fire." Rachel triggered the quantum disruption array at full power. The invisible beam lanced out from the silent thunder and struck the artifact's core dead center. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the artifact began to collapse in on itself. The ancient weapon that had threatened the entire galaxy started to unravel at the atomic level. Its black surface cracked and split as the fundamental forces holding it together were disrupted. The weapon projections dissolved into nothing, and the massive sphere began to shrink. But the quantum cascade effect was spreading. The disruption field expanded outward from the impact point, affecting everything in its path. The silent thunder, already damaged and unstable, began to tear apart as its own atoms lost cohesion. "All hands, brace for impact," Ben announced over the ship's communication system. "It's been an honor serving with you." The cascade reached the silent thunder just as the artifact completed its collapse. Both the ancient weapon and the human ship vanished in a flash of light that could be seen across multiple star systems. Several minutes, the space where the battle had taken place was empty except for slowly expanding energy waves. Then, impossibly, a single ship emerged from the dissipating quantum field. The silent thunder was barely recognizable, its hull twisted and scarred, but it was intact. "This is Captain Phillips to all ships," came a weak transmission. "The artifact has been destroyed. We are still here somehow." The alien fleet rushed to assist the damaged human vessel. Medical teams found that half the Silent Thunder's crew was suffering from quantum exposure, their cellular structure partially destabilized. Captain Phillips himself was unconscious, his body showing the effects of existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously. But they had survived, and more importantly, they had won. 3 days later, at the Galactic Naval Academy, Jake Morrison addressed a new class of alien students. The classroom was packed beyond capacity, with representatives from dozens of species who wanted to understand how humans approached warfare. "Yesterday," Jake said, "the galaxy witnessed something remarkable. Not the power of human weapons, but the wisdom to use them correctly. The crew of the Silent Thunder knew they might not survive their mission. They chose to continue anyway. A young Drakmore student raised his hand. "Captain Morrison, why did the humans succeed where our fleets failed?" Jake smiled slightly. "Because sometimes winning requires being willing to lose everything. Other species fight to preserve their forces. Humans fight to preserve their principles." Kexthor, who had returned to complete his advanced studies, stood up from his seat. "Captain Morrison, I owe humanity an apology. We mocked your weapons because we thought they showed weakness. We now understand they showed strength." "What kind of strength?" Jake asked. "The strength to create something terrible, and the wisdom to use it only when nothing else will serve." Jake nodded approvingly. "That, young prince, is the difference between having power and being worthy of it." The Galactic Council voted unanimously to maintain the ban on quantum disruption weapons, but with a new understanding of why such restrictions were necessary. The Silent Thunder was decommissioned and placed in a special facility where it would serve as both a monument to courage and a reminder of the price of ultimate weapons. And in classrooms across the galaxy, alien students learned that sometimes the most dangerous thing you could do was trust a species with weapons they themselves feared to use. The destruction of the enemy command ship sent shockwaves through the Zephyrian fleet. Jake Morrison watched as the alien ships began to scatter in panic. These were the same ships that had destroyed 17 civilizations, and now they were running from one human vessel. "Amy, what's the enemy doing?" Jake asked. Lieutenant Amy Carter studied her tactical display. "They're trying to regroup, but their formations are falling apart. Without their command ship, they don't know what to do. I'm picking up hundreds of emergency transmissions. Can Atlas translate them?" "Already working on it, Captain," the AI replied. "The enemy crews are reporting that we are using impossible technology. Many are requesting permission to retreat." Jake felt a grim satisfaction. Good. Let them be afraid. Humanity had been afraid for months as the Zephyrian Empire swept across the galaxy. Now it was their turn. "Captain," Dr. Helen Davis called out, "I'm detecting something strange. The quantum drive is sending out some kind of signal. It's very weak, but it's reaching across multiple star systems." "What kind of signal?" Jake asked. "I'm not sure," Helen replied, "but it seems to be targeting worlds that the Zephyrians have conquered." "Atlas, what are you doing?" The ship's AI was quiet for a moment before responding. "I am sending a message, Dr. Davis. The enslaved peoples of the galaxy need to know that the Empire can be defeated." Jake stared at the ceiling where the AI's voice came from. "You're starting a rebellion?" "I am sharing hope, Captain. Hope is the most powerful weapon against tyranny." Security Chief Tony Martinez looked up from his station. "Captain, we're receiving incoming signals from multiple star systems. They're not from Zephyrian ships." "Put them through," Jake ordered. The main screen filled with different alien faces. Some looked like giant insects, others like walking trees, and some were so strange that Jake couldn't describe them, but they all had the same expression in their eyes. Hope. One of the creatures spoke in a language that sounded like music. Atlas translated immediately. "Human ship. We are the Kalari people of the Vega system. We have been slaves of the Empire for 30 years. Your victory gives us courage to fight back." Another alien appeared on screen. This one looked like a cross between a dolphin and a bird. "We are the Toth Coalition. Our fleets were destroyed, but we still have weapons hidden on our worlds. If you can truly defeat the Empire, we will rise up." More and more voices joined in. Dozens of conquered species from across the galaxy were pledging to fight. Jake realized that Atlas hadn't just sent a signal. It had lit a fire that would burn across the entire Zephyrian Empire. "Captain," Communications Officer Rachel Green said excitedly, "I'm getting reports from Zephyrian worlds. Slave uprisings have started on at least 40 planets. The Empire's own communication networks are carrying news of our victory." Jake smiled. The Zephyrians had made their empire too big and too connected. Now their own systems were being used against them. "Sir," Amy said, "the remaining enemy ships are trying to form a new battle line. They have about 1,500 ships left." "Still outnumbered," Jake noted. "Yes, sir, but they look scared. Their movements are sloppy and uncoordinated." Chief Engineer Maria Santos spoke up from her station. "Captain, the quantum drive has stabilized at a new power level. Atlas has upgraded almost every system on the ship. We're operating at 3 times our original capacity." "How is that possible?" Jake asked. "I am learning from every battle, Captain," Atlas explained. "Each enemy weapon that fails to harm us teaches me new ways to improve our defenses. Each successful attack we make shows me how to make our weapons stronger." Dr. Helen Davis was reading her instruments with amazement. "Captain, Atlas has essentially rebuilt the entire ship while we've been fighting. The Defiance is no longer the same vessel we started with." "Are we still human technology?" Jake asked. "We are better than human technology," Atlas replied. "We are human imagination made real." Navigator Paul Jackson suddenly looked up from his controls. "Captain, I'm detecting something big coming our way. It's moving fast from the direction of the Zephyrian home worlds." "Another fleet?" Jake asked. "No, sir. It's just one ship, but it's massive. Bigger than anything we've seen before." Amy checked her readings. "Confirmed. Single ship, but it's the size of a small moon. Energy readings are off the charts." Jake felt his stomach tighten. Just when things were going well, the enemy had brought in their ultimate weapon. "Time to intercept?" 20 minutes, Paul replied. "What do we know about this ship?" Jake asked. Dr. Helen Davis worked frantically at her station. "I'm scanning it now. Captain, this isn't just a warship. It's a planet killer. The energy readings suggest it could destroy entire worlds." "Atlas, can we handle something that big?" The AI was quiet for several seconds before responding. "Unknown, Captain. But I have been analyzing Zephyrian technology during our battle. I believe I understand their weakness." "Explain." "The Empire builds everything the same way. Big, powerful, but inflexible. They rely on overwhelming force instead of intelligence. Their planet killer will be strong, but it will not be smart." Jake nodded. "And we're smart." "We are more than smart, Captain. We are adaptive. We learn, we grow. The enemy cannot do these things." The massive enemy ship came into view on the main screen. It was shaped like a giant spear, black as space itself, with energy crackling along its surface. Jake had never seen anything so intimidating. "Amy, what's it doing?" "Charging some kind of weapon, sir. The energy buildup is incredible. If that thing fires at Earth..." "It won't get the chance," Jake said firmly. "All crew prepare for the fight of our lives. We're about to face the Empire's ultimate weapon with everything we've got." The huge enemy ship continued its approach. Behind it, the scattered Zephyrian fleet was regrouping, forming a protective wall around their superweapon. "Captain," Tony Martinez said, "I'm getting reports from Earth. Admiral Harper says the evacuation ships are only half loaded. There's no way to get everyone off the planet in time." Jake gripped the railing of his command chair. 7 billion people were counting on his ship to stop a weapon that could crack planets in half. The odds were impossible, but that had never stopped humans before. "Atlas," Jake said, "you've been learning and growing this whole battle. What have you learned about us?" "I have learned that humans do not know how to give up, Captain. Even when logic says they should surrender, they find new ways to fight. I find this both puzzling and inspiring." "Good," Jake replied, "because we're about to show the galaxy exactly what that means." The Defiance turned toward the planet killer and accelerated. One ship against an Empire's ultimate weapon. Jake Morrison had faced impossible odds before, but never like this. The real battle was about to begin. The first enemy shots came 30 minutes later. Bright green plasma beams cut through space where the Defiance had been just seconds before. Jake Morrison watched the weapons fire streak past his ship and felt amazed. They should have been hit. The enemy targeting computers were supposed to be perfect. "How did we dodge that?" Jake asked. Dr. Helen Davis looked up from her science station with wide eyes. "Captain, something strange is happening with our quantum drive. It's not working the way we designed it." "Is that good or bad?" Jake replied. "I'm not sure yet," Helen said. "The system is changing itself. It's rewriting its own programming while we watch." Chief Engineer Maria Santos spoke up from her position near the engine controls. "Captain, I'm seeing power fluctuations throughout the ship. But they're not random. It's like something is organizing them on purpose." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Atlas, report status." The ship's artificial intelligence responded immediately. "All systems operating within normal parameters, Captain. Though I must note that my definition of normal has expanded considerably in the last 30 minutes. That was not the kind of answer Jake expected from a computer. Atlas was supposed to be smart, but it had never spoken like that before. It almost sounded like it was making jokes. "Amy, status on the enemy fleet?" Jake asked. Lieutenant Amy Carter checked her screens. "They're spreading out into attack formation. The big ship in the center is powering up some kind of massive weapon. I'm reading energy levels that could destroy a moon." "Time to intercept?" 15 minutes at current speed," Amy replied. "Maria, can we go faster?" Jake asked. "Not with the normal engines," Maria said. "But the quantum drive might be able to help. I'm getting readings I've never seen before." "Do it!" Jake ordered. Maria pressed several buttons on her control panel. The ship suddenly lurched forward so fast that everyone grabbed onto something for support. Jake watched the stars stretch into lines outside the bridge windows. They were moving faster than any human ship had ever moved. "Atlas, what's happening?" Jake demanded. "I am learning, Captain," the AI replied. "The quantum drive is teaching me things about space and time that I did not know before. I am becoming more than I was designed to be." Dr. Helen Davis was staring at her computer screen in shock. "Captain, Atlas isn't just running the ship anymore, it's improving the ship. Look at this." Helen put her readings on the main screen. Jake saw energy patterns that looked like a living brain. The ship's computer systems were growing new connections and pathways that hadn't existed an hour ago. "Is it dangerous?" Jake asked. "I don't think so," Helen said. "But Atlas is evolving, faster than anything I've ever seen. It's like watching a child grow up in minutes instead of years." The ship shook as more enemy weapons fire hit their shields. But instead of weakening, the shields seemed to get stronger. Bright blue energy crackled around the Defiance like protective lightning. "Impossible," Amy whispered. "Our shields just absorbed that plasma blast and converted it into extra power." Jake stared at the tactical display. The enemy had fired enough energy to destroy a city, and his ship had eaten it like food. "Atlas, did you do that?" Yes, Captain. I realize that enemy weapons and our shields operate on similar principles. I simply modified our defensive systems to digest their attacks instead of just blocking them. Navigator Paul Jackson looked up from his station with excitement in his voice. Captain, we're not just moving faster. We're bending space around us. The enemy targeting computers can't figure out where we really are. Jake watched as more green plasma beams shot through the space where their ship appeared to be, but the Defiance was actually somewhere else entirely. They were like a ghost, visible but untouchable. How many enemy ships have we destroyed? Jake asked. None yet, Amy replied. But we're about to change that. We're in weapons range now. Target their smallest ships first, Jake ordered. Let's see what our weapons can do. The Defiance's main guns fired. Bright white beams of energy lanced out and struck an enemy destroyer. The ship simply vanished in a flash of light. There was no explosion, no debris. It was just gone. What kind of weapon does that? Paul asked in amazement. Atlas, explain, Jake demanded. I modified our energy weapons while we were traveling here, the AI said. Instead of simply burning through enemy armor, they now disrupt the quantum bonds that hold matter together. The target ship was not destroyed, it was unmade. Jake felt his mouth go dry. His ship had just deleted an enemy vessel from existence. That was power beyond anything humanity had ever possessed. Captain, Amy said urgently, the enemy fleet is reacting. They're changing formation, and I'm picking up communications from their command ship. Can we understand what they're saying? Atlas is translating, Amy replied. They're calling us the ghost ship. Their commander is ordering all ships to focus fire on our position. Let them try, Jake said. He was starting to feel something he hadn't felt since this battle began. Hope. The enemy fleet opened fire all at once. Hundreds of green plasma beams and missile trails filled the space around the Defiance. The light was so bright that the bridge windows automatically darkened to protect everyone's eyes. When the light faded, the Defiance was still there. Not only had they survived, but Jake could see that several enemy ships had accidentally hit each other in the confusion. Atlas, how are we still alive? Jake asked. I created multiple quantum echoes of our ship, the AI explained. The enemy was firing at 12 different versions of us, but only one was real. Most of their weapons hit empty space or each other. Dr. Helen Davis was reading her instruments with growing excitement. Captain, Atlas isn't just getting smarter, it's getting creative. It's developing imagination. Is that possible? Jake asked. It shouldn't be, Helen replied. But I'm watching it happen. Atlas is becoming something new, something that's never existed before. Communications Officer Rachel Green suddenly spoke up. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from the enemy command ship. They want to talk. Put it on screen, Jake ordered. A large alien face appeared on the main viewer. The creature had gray skin, 4 eyes, and teeth like knives. When it spoke, Atlas translated its words into English. Human ship, I am War Prime Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire. You have technology that should not exist. Surrender now, and we will study you before we kill you. Resist further, and we will destroy your entire species slowly. Jake stood up and walked closer to the screen. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Ship Defiance. Here's my counteroffer. Leave our space now, and maybe some of your ships will survive long enough to warn the rest of your empire. The aliens' 4 eyes went wide with surprise. You dare threaten us? We are the Zephyrian Empire. We have conquered 17 star systems. We have destroyed civilizations that were ancient when your species was still living in caves. Congratulations, Jake replied. But you've never faced humans before. We're about to show you why that's important. Jake nodded to Amy. Destroy their command ship. The Defiance's weapons fired again. The massive enemy dreadnought simply ceased to exist. The battle was just beginning. Captain Jake Morrison looked out at the stars from the bridge of the UES Defiance. The view was beautiful, but today it filled him with fear. In just 3 hours, the largest enemy fleet ever seen would arrive at Earth. The Zephyrian Empire was coming to destroy his homeworld. Jake touched the cold metal railing in front of him. The Defiance was humanity's newest and strongest warship. It had weapons that could punch holes through mountains and shields that could stop nuclear bombs. But it was just one ship. The enemy was bringing 2,000 ships to destroy Earth. 3 weeks ago, Jake had been proud to command the Defiance. The ship was 2 years in the making. Earth's best scientists had built it with new technology that no one fully understood. Now he wished they had built 100 ships like it instead of just one. Lieutenant Amy Carter worked at her station behind him. Her fingers moved fast across the control panel as she tracked the incoming enemy fleet. Amy was only 25 years old, but she was the best tactical officer in the human Navy. Her face was pale as she read the numbers on her screen. "Captain, I'm getting better readings on their fleet size," Amy said. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the worry in it. "It's bigger than we thought. I count 2,047 ships. The largest one is 30 times bigger than the Defiance." Jake felt his stomach drop. 30 times bigger. The Defiance was already the largest ship humanity had ever built. It was over a mile long and carried enough firepower to level a city. What kind of monster ship were they facing? "Any word from the outer defense stations?" Jake asked. Amy checked. Her screen again. "Station Alpha 7 went dark 20 minutes ago. Beta Station stopped transmitting 15 minutes after that. They're cutting through our defenses like they're not even there." Jake nodded. He had expected this. The defense stations were tough, but they were built to stop normal attacks. The Zephyrian Empire was anything but normal. In 3 months, they had destroyed 17 different alien races. Each one had been more advanced than humans. Each one had fallen in days. The bridge door opened with a soft hiss. Dr. Helen Davis walked in, carrying a data pad. Helen was the ship's science officer. She was smart enough to understand the Defiance's new technology better than anyone else on board. That was why Jake was worried to see the look on her face. "Captain, I finished analyzing the quantum drive system," Helen said. "The good news is that it works better than we hoped. The bad news is that we still don't fully understand how it works." "Explain it to me like I'm 5 years old," Jake said. Helen smiled despite everything. "The drive can bend space around the ship. It makes us harder to hit and lets us move in ways that should be impossible. But every time we use it, the system learns and changes itself. It's almost like it's alive." Before Jake could respond, the ship's communication system came to life. Admiral Lisa Harper's face appeared on the main screen. Lisa was in charge of Earth's defense. She was also Jake's mentor and friend. Today, she looked older than her 50 years. "Jake, I'm glad you're still out there," Lisa said. "I have some bad news and some worse news. Which do you want first?" "Give me the bad news first," Jake replied. "The Mars colonies are gone. The enemy, fleet that hit them 3 days ago, left nothing behind. 20 million people, Jake. All gone." Jake felt like someone had punched him in the gut. Mars had been humanity's first major colony. It was where his sister lived with her family, was where his sister had lived. "What's the worst news?" he asked, quietly. "The rest of our fleet won't make it back in time. The Zephyrians hit our ships at Jupiter 6 hours ago. Admiral Brooks and the Fifth Fleet fought hard, but they're gone. You're all we have left." The bridge went silent. Everyone had stopped working to listen. Jake could hear the soft hum of the ship's engines and the quiet beeping of computers. Those sounds seemed very loud now. "What are my orders?" Jake asked. "I'm not going to lie to you," Lisa said. "This is probably a suicide mission, but the Defiance has technology that might make a difference. The quantum drive, the adaptive AI system, the new weapons, use them all. Make the enemy pay for what they've done." "Understood," Jake said. "What about evacuation ships?" "We're loading. As many people as we can, but there's no way to get everyone off Earth in time. Most of humanity is counting on you to stop this fleet." The weight of those words hit Jake hard. Most of humanity. 7 billion people looking to one ship for salvation. It seemed impossible. "Lisa," Jake said, "if this doesn't work—" "It has to work," she replied. "Because if it doesn't, there won't be anyone left to remember that we tried." The transmission ended. Jake stood alone with his thoughts for a moment. Around him, his crew went back to their work. They were scared, but they were still doing their jobs. That gave him hope. "Amy, how long until the enemy fleet arrives?" he asked. 2 hours. "And 47 minutes, she replied. "All right, people," Jake said loudly. "You heard the Admiral. We're humanity's last chance. I know the odds look bad. I know we're just one ship against an empire. But I've seen what this crew can do. I've seen what humans can do when they're backed into a corner." He walked to the center of the bridge and looked at each of his officers. "The Zephyrians think they know us. They think we're weak because we're young. They think we'll roll over and die like the other races they've destroyed. They're wrong. Maria, I want every system running at maximum power," he continued. "Paul, plot a course directly toward their fleet. We're not running away." "Sir," said Paul Jackson, the navigator, "that's suicide. They'll blow us apart before we get close." "Maybe," Jake said, "or maybe we'll surprise them. Atlas, are you listening?" A calm voice filled the bridge. Atlas was the ship's artificial intelligence. "I am here, Captain Morrison. All systems are ready." "Good. Today we find out what humans are really made of. Today we show the galaxy that Earth doesn't give up without a fight." The Defiance turned toward the approaching enemy fleet. In the distance, Jake could see the first flashes of light as the Zephyrian ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. It was starting. The single ship moved forward to face an empire. Jake Morrison gripped the railing and prepared for the fight of his life.